This story starts off in 2015 when my wife, Maria, and I were both 44 and 45. Until this point, we were happily married for 18 years with two amazing sons. We were both very much in love, at least I thought. And while our romantic life wasn't brilliant, we had other ways of showing affection. We had never had any rough periods in our marriage at all. I am self-employed as a plumber and have been in this business since around 209-10. At the time, Maria was a pharmacist. We were both going strong in our careers and earning a decent amount. One night when our sons were in bed, Maria and I were downstairs and decided to watch a film together on Netflix. We started watching a film about a poor girl who had been in poverty her whole life and then joined an escorting agency. This girl mentioned in the film how she was earning around $1,000 per client. When the girl said this, Maria's response was, "There's me spending hours a day in a pharmacy earning the same amount a year as she does in a month." When she said this, I didn't think anything of it and just replied with, "Yeah." After that, we enjoyed the film, and once it ended, we went to sleep. After that evening, our life was completely normal until about 1 month later. It was just another usual workday, and I came home at around 3 p.m. after finishing a job and picking up the kids from school who were both 7 at the time. Around 5 p.m., I got a text from Maria saying that she was going for a drink with her friend after work to catch up. I said that was fine, so I fed the kids and put them to sleep. I was just watching football on TV and hadn't even realized the time when my wife came home at around 8 p.m. I presume she must have just been having a good time with her friend, so I didn't question her about anything apart from asking how it went. Straight after that, though, she went up and had a shower, which was strange as she had always been a morning shower person since we met. I didn't think much of this, so later on, we both went to sleep as usual. Fast forward to the weekend. Maria said she was going to the town center for shopping as she hadn't been in ages. I offered to drop her off, but she politely said she would take her car. She went, and I stayed home and did household jobs. Maria had been gone for 4 hours, and I hadn't heard from her, so I rang her up to see when she was going to be back, but she didn't answer. I texted her asking when she'd be back. She didn't read it, so I waited roughly half an hour and rang her again, but she didn't pick up. At this point, I started to get a bit worried. I tried ringing her again and again for around 45 minutes, but she didn't pick up. Then, eventually, after being out for a total of 7 hours, she rang me up and said she was really sorry she hadn't answered. She claimed her phone was out of power, and she had to find somewhere to sit and charge it. I believed her and forgave her. When she came home, we hugged, and we said the usual, "I love you" to each other. Maria then went to the shower. At this point, I still hadn't suspected a single thing. I suspected nothing of her for a whole 3 months after that. Life went on, and during those 3 months, there were a few occasions when she would meet up with a friend, and I just let her go. Then there were also a few times when she would work late, saying she was at the pharmacy until the shop closed, and I would believe her. She also started working a lot more frequently on Sundays. She did this sometimes anyway, but during this time period, she was doing it a lot more than usual. I also continued working like normal throughout this time. Then, one Friday, Maria came home from the pharmacy and said that she had been invited to spend the night at her friend's house. I thought this was a little weird as this friend she was staying with usually met with Maria a lot of the time anyway, so I wondered why Maria wanted to stay over at her house all of a sudden. I just agreed with her and offered to drop her off, but she said she'd just drive. After she left that evening, it was just me and the boys. They were just playing on their own, and I was getting a little bored. So, I decided that I could ask Maria's friend's husband, Dean, if he wanted to come over for a pint, as we were quite good friends. I then proceeded to ring Dean up and asked him, "While the ladies gossip at your house, do you want to come over to mine for a pint?" He just replied with, "What do you mean? My wife is at home with me." At that moment, my heart dropped. I asked him if he was just joking, and he was being dead serious. I could even hear his wife in the background saying it was only them two at home. I then ended the phone call and just stood up and thought for a moment. I decided to ring up Maria, but she didn't reply. I rang her 3 more times after that, but she didn't answer. I also texted her about 10 times asking if she was okay, but she didn't reply. I then put the kids to bed and was considering calling the police until I got a call from Maria saying that she was very, very sorry for making you worry so much. She said over the phone that she meant she was going to see her other friend, and said the wrong name by accident and didn't answer the phone because they went for dinner. I then felt really relieved but told her to keep her phone on. After saying goodnight to her, I went to sleep, thinking to myself, at least she's all right. But one thing kept troubling me. Why was she at dinner for such a long time? I then stopped thinking and went to sleep. The next day at around 1 p.m., Maria arrived home and acted completely normal. I asked her how it was, and she told me that she and her friend just relaxed, chatted, and had a meal. We then went on as usual for a week until I got home one day and the postman came to deliver a parcel to our house addressed to Maria. She hardly ever orders things, so I waited until she came home to give it to her. She said, "Oh, that must be my new phone." When she said that, my jaw dropped and I answered, "But you already got a new phone a few months ago, which I got you?" She then says, "Oh yeah, but I wanted a bigger one, so I bought myself a new one." Despite feeling a little down and confused about why she bought a new phone, an iPhone 6 Plus at the time, I let it be. Fast forward 2 days later, she comes home from work with a brand new hair curler and hair dryer, which she bought after work. They were a really expensive brand too. I asked her, "Why are you spending and essentially wasting so much money on things you already have?" Her reply was, "Oh, I never buy myself nice new things, so I thought I would treat myself." This wasn't like her, but I just let it go. Although it was bothering me, bearing in mind her birthday was in 6 weeks, and I could have gotten her the gifts. Fast forward another week. We are just sitting at our dinner table with the boys, chatting as usual as we ate, when I saw Maria wearing a brand new, spanking clean Pandora bracelet with a few fancy gems on it. I asked her when she got it, and she said, "Oh yeah, I forgot to tell you. I bought a new bracelet." "Do you like it?" I responded with. "It's lovely. But why are you spending so much money all of a sudden on things that aren't necessary? It's your birthday in just over a month." This clearly bothered her that I was questioning her, and she said to me in a slightly angry voice, "Come on, I never buy myself things, and I just really wanted it. And for my birthday, I don't want any gifts from you. All I want is to spend time with you." After this, we ate in silence as we didn't want to argue in front of the kids. However, that had made me reach a tipping point, and I did have a strange feeling in my head. Before we went to sleep that night, I said to Maria, "I'm really glad that you're buying these lovely things and enjoying them, but please be careful with what you spend." She then said, "Sorry, and I'll be careful from now on." After that, we kissed and went to sleep. That feeling in my head had calmed down, but I still had questions. Where is she getting this spare money from? 3 more weeks passed, 2 and 3 days, actually, and one Saturday night, Maria said she was going out with her boss, who is a woman, and another colleague, who is also a woman, for a drink at a bar. I spent the next few hours at home with the kids. Then here's where things get very interesting. At around 9 p.m., I got a phone call from one of my friends who I hadn't spoken to for a few weeks, so I wondered why he was calling. I picked up the phone, and he told me that he was at a pub and saw my wife sitting with a man about the same age as me. She was dressed up in a very revealing dress, and he saw Maria and the man kiss a few times. When he said this, my heart dropped, and I was silent for a good 10 seconds. I replied with, "Excuse me," he said. "Mate, I'm being serious. I was just walking back from the bathroom and saw them sitting together at a table. I haven't said anything to them." When he said this, I thought he was just making it up, so I asked him to send a picture. But at the same time, I was thinking, how do I know if she really went with her work colleagues? My friend then sent me a picture. It was a bit far away as he didn't want to get caught taking the picture, but I zoomed in on it, and my jaw dropped and heart sank. That woman was definitely Maria. She was sitting with another man and wearing such a low-cut dress that almost her entire chest was sticking out in the open. I didn't even know she had a dress like that. But that wasn't on my mind. I started shaking and almost tearing up. I asked my friend to tell me the address of the pub they were at, so I ran to the car, leaving the boys at home, and drove half an hour as fast as possible to the pub. I parked up, and my mate was waiting outside for me. We both went in quickly, and he pointed me towards Maria. I then looked at where he was pointing and completely froze. There she was, my wife of 18 years, sitting there laughing and giggling with a random man. All I could think of at this time in my head was, oh my gosh, she is cheating on me. She was wearing beautiful makeup. She never looked like that with me. Her new Pandora bracelet, red heels, and a dress that certainly gave the world a brilliant view of her very large chest. Maria was the best dressed person in the whole bar. I just stood there staring at her. I then walked up to her and rubbed her shoulder. Maria turned and looked at me, her face going from all happy and smiley to a face of horror. I said, "Maria, what on earth are you doing here? And who is this man?" She stood up and put her hands on my arms and said, "Honey, it's just a work colleague meeting. Don't raise your voice." After she said that, I then said, "Wearing a dress like that? Not a chance. You're coming with me." I picked up her bag and started walking out of the bar with Maria following me as she talked some random gibberish. During this time, the guy she was with was completely silent. We both sat in the car, and Maria instantly burst out crying and sobbing. In a calm voice, I said to her, "Now please tell me, Maria, who that man was, and how long has this been going on between you two?" Still sobbing her eyes out, she replied with, "No, we don't have a relationship, and we are not dating. This was our first time meeting." I said, "Then who was he? And why are you wearing such a sexy dress?" Maria then went on to tell me that for the past few months, she had been working for a high-class escorting agency, and that she quit her job as a pharmacist then too. All those times she had been coming home late, meeting a friend, she was really spending time with a client. All the hours during the day I was made to believe she spent at the pharmacy, she was really with clients all that time. She claimed that she just earned so much money from the first week of doing it that she quit her real job and did escorting full-time. She didn't want to tell me as she knew I wouldn't allow it. This all explains why she was suddenly buying all these relatively expensive items. She told me she got the idea when we watched the film about the escort girl a few months ago, and although it was a fictional character, she felt jealous and thought she could be earning so much more. I just couldn't believe all this time what she had been doing all because of a stupid film. Then I asked her a big question. "Have you been spending intimate time with these clients?" She replied with, "Yes," which I wasn't surprised about. She then went on to say how she wanted me to forgive her and that she loves me, and we can fix this, and she'll stop working for the agency, and she didn't have intimate moments with every single client. But I had enough. I drove Maria straight to her parents' house and left her there. When I got back home myself, I just sat in the corner of my room in silence, just processing the situation. All I could think was, how could such a happy and perfect married life change so drastically in just a couple of months because of some stupid film? After this, there was a lot more talking and working things out. In the end of it all, Maria and I were divorced. Since then, I have looked after the kids, and Maria moved in with her parents. Every weekend, the boys get picked up and spend the weekend with Maria. Ever since, I have been living a happy single life. I realize that I have written a lot here, so I apologize for writing so much. But honestly, I have missed out a lot of details, most particularly the bits around the time when I saw her in the bar and when we got in the car afterward. The bits in the car when she told me everything I am not able to describe at all, but I've written the main details.